Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the political panel part of today's conference. We have spent all day listening to some of the best experts in the world discussing drug reform, but at the end of the day, this has very quickly become, I think, a political debate and a political discussion where we require some genuine political courage from our leaders to make some real progressive change here in New Zealand. The way we will set this up is each of the MPs and politicians beside me will have 5 minutes to explain their drug policy to you. I will then ask them a specific question about their policy. Once we've done that with all of them, we will open it up to everyone here and obviously everybody who's watching live on stream. If you want to send your questions through, do so now. Tweet Pathway to Reform, get them through. It is very sad, I think, that the National Party, New Zealand First, and ACT all turned down offers and opportunities to come here to discuss their drug policy. I think that is a real indictment on them in an election year that they are not prepared to front and debate their ideas. I'm terribly disappointed in all of them. Tisk tisk. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage our first speaker and politician, MP Ian Lees-Galloway.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Ian Lees-Galloway. I'm the MP for Palmerston North. I'm from the Labour Party. I'm Labour's Associate Health Spokesperson with responsibility for drugs, tobacco, alcohol, all that fun stuff. And what I want to do, because our policy is actually fairly simple, I could probably give it to you on one line and sit back down again. So I want to give you a little bit of history as to how we've got to where we're at and where we want to go to next. So when Labour was last in government, we started to see the proliferation of novel psychoactive substances, things like BZP, other things coming on the market. And we tried the old, tired way of trying to ban everything, and we constantly found ourselves chasing our tails, and every substance that we banned, up came something new to replace it. So we asked the Law Commission to do a review of the Misuse of Drugs Act for two reasons. One, because of that issue that the Misuse of Drugs Act was not able to respond to new substances coming onto the market, but also because the Misuse of Drugs Act was a beast of the 1970s. It reflected the substances that were available in the 1970s, but it also reflected the views of the 1970s. It was outdated, it was outmoded, and it really was time to look at how we could change it. And the best organisation we could think of was the Law Commission, who were both independent of government, but also had the resources to carry out a comprehensive review and the consultation required. Sadly, the Law Commission wasn't able to come back with its response before the election in 2008, and the government changed. The Law Commission did come back with its response. It was comprehensive, it was really well thought through, and it was quite progressive. The first thing the national government did when that review came out was to unequivocally say there would be absolutely no liberalisation of drug regulation whatsoever, especially not on cannabis. So that was without even really reading it properly. That was on day one. No way, no how was there going to be any liberalisation of cannabis. But what they then did was they produced an interim response to the Law Commission report. It dealt with just two aspects. One, the new Psychoactive Substances and the chapter which ultimately became the Psychoactive Substances Act, and the ABC classification of drugs. They completely ignored everything else, and their excuse was because it was just before the last election. And their promise was that there would be a full response to the Law Commission report and a replacement for the Misuse of Drugs Act during the current term of Parliament. Well, we're nearly finished, and neither the full response to the Law Commission's report nor the replacement legislation has been forthcoming. So that's the first piece of policy from Labour. We will go back and do a full and proper response to the Law Commission report, and there will be a replacement for the Misuse of Drugs Act under a Labour-led government. There's a little bit of applause there, thank you. We do support the Psychoactive Substances Act, and we do see it as a good template for how we might be able to regulate drugs in the future. And it's on its feet, it's underway, it's had a few teething problems. I think there's a reason why we're seeing some of the pushback that we are right now, especially from councils. One is that we rushed the legislation. The government left it to the last minute. It wasn't a priority for them. And so we had this deadline of August last year to get the legislation finished by. And the fact was we didn't start it until March last year. So the select committee, which Kevin and I were both on, had to rush our work. And yes, I'm prepared to accept that we made mistakes because the pressure was put on us. So there are aspects of it that I think need to be improved, and maybe in question time we'll be able to go into that. But the other thing was that we didn't engage local government because we simply didn't have time to engage local government, and I think they've been surprised by the expectations that have been placed on them by the legislation. Of course, they've pushed back against us. So the other thing I'll promise is that we'll actually take drug reform seriously, and we'll be prepared to take the time to get it right. And we'll work with you, and we'll work with the councils, and we'll work with everybody that's involved. But I think one of the big problems is that by picking out one chapter of the Law Commission report and not implementing everything else, that has created the problems, some of the problems that we're seeing with the Psychoactive Substances Act. The other problem is that legislation isn't the beginning and end of good regulation and good support for people who use different drugs. We need to fund and resource our alcohol and drug treatment providers properly to be able to respond, and we need to make sure we've got the right resources. I'm sorry, I'm running out of time, so I'm just trying to whip through things. We need to make sure the Ministry of Health is properly resourced to deal with all the licence applications and all the regulation-making duties that they have. And the government has failed to do that as well. They thought that just by passing the Act, they could say our job's done and it's all finished. Looking forward to how we can discuss that further in question time, because I have to finish up now, but thanks for your time.